So, all right, national championship. Not to toot my own horn, I predicted 27-21 Indiana. The final score, 27-21 Indiana. Ba-da-dun-da-dun-dun.
All I'm doing is tooting right now.
Yeah. We're going to talk about our biggest takeaways. We got a couple like hanging fruit questions to answer as well. But we'll start with the first half. And, Turner, you were looking at the stats prior to us starting the recording, and we were just kind of going back, reviewing, and because that was a big emphasis in our group chat when we were talking, was the difference between Indiana's control of the football and Miami not having many opportunities to get the ball rolling, quite literally ending up with 0 points in the first half. What did you see from Indiana's dominance and from Miami's lack thereof in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, literally, I don't know why Miami just kind of not lean away, but didn't contribute to the run game as much as they did in prior games against like Ole Miss, against A&M. And you're just kind of shocked to see that, like, dude, you're trying to put, make it a different game plan to put it in Carson Beck's hands. But if we look at it in historical data, putting it in Carson Beck's hands is what costed them 2 games in the regular season. 4 interceptions against Louisville, and then an overtime interception against SMU. So realistically, like, why would you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you're just going to run it down their throat, dominate the time of possession of the game like you've been doing in all the previous other games before. And so when that was happening, I was very confused. We were all just chatting and just being like, what's going on? And Indiana, I was listening to Josh Pate before the episode started, and one thing that he pointed out was...
No.
All right, I'll see y'all later. One thing that
we love Josh Pate.
Yeah, we love Josh Pate, but we're coming from the crown. Anyway, he was talking about how on every Indiana possession, or for a scoring possession, they had more than 12 plays in each of those possessions. And so you just saw that literally Indiana dominated the time of the possession of the game. And just seeing that in the first half really kind of shined, especially when you held Miami to zilch. So that's just something I saw in the first half. The second half, like, you got to give it up to Miami because, like, I'm sure there is a statistic of showing, like, the difference of total yards in the first half for Miami versus the second half. And it was all Miami, 1,000%, no ifs, ands, or buts. If literally, but again, it all comes down to explosive plays. It comes down to 2 plays specifically for Miami. The game-ending interception by Carson Beck by just chunking it in to say, hope to God. And then that big blocked punt that ended up being a TD. That contributed to a lot of what unfortunately ended the Hail Mary run for Miami, even though realistically it looked like they were the better team. They just, got out-coached. It's kind of how it ends. So,
yeah.
I mean, congrats to the Hoosiers. I mean, I wasn't really surprised that they won. They had a heck of a season. Congrats to Fernando. I'm sure he'll put it on his LinkedIn that he's a national champion as well. Good for him. And then he'll upload it on YouTube as he's doom scrolling on YouTube Shorts. So,
literally 6'7". Exactly.
Well, that's what I'm imagining Fernando doing on YouTube Shorts. Is what I'm adding to that. Chad, your thoughts on the first half and what you saw from the game overall?
Well, honestly, when it first started, I thought it was going to be, honestly, a blowout. Like, I thought it was going to be 41-21 at the end of the game. And Ryan made a good point when he was texting in the group chat that, they're playing at Miami, and then Indiana runs out and the whole stadium just roars. And you're just like, oh my gosh, like, this is going to be a disaster for Miami. But honestly, I was a little surprised how Miami was doing against Indiana. I honestly thought Indiana was going to go right off the bat and just absolutely knock the crap out of Miami, but they held their ground, and I don't even know if it was like underperformance from Indiana. I just think that Miami was able to get up to their standards or to their level of playing field and sustain that for a good first half. But then, things started to roll into Indiana's favor, and, it started to fade away from Miami. And then there was I don't know if y'all saw, there was like a big argument between 2 players at the time, like on the sideline. They were just going at it with one another.
For Miami?
Yeah, for Miami. They were going at it. Like they were.
Is that early in the game?
I can't remember, but anyway, either first half or second half, like you
Yeah.
could just see that their sideline was just sort of giving up a little bit.
Yeah, and one of the things that I thought was interesting was last week we were talking about the game, and you know, Ryan made the point it's going to be pretty entertaining. I can't remember what we all predicted, but through and through for the last 2 weeks, everybody has been consistent with picking Indiana to win this football game, and I just think it's a broken record. We talk about it's discipline, it's execution, it's the age of the team and how they recruited and assembled these players from James Madison up to different teams within the Big Ten, and the talent acquisition that Kurt Cignetti focused was more so on experience than 4 and 5 stars, which has proven to be maybe a new method for these teams in the Big Ten or in any conference to win some ball games. And as Nick Saban says, you either do things good, you either do things bad, we can do things average, we can do things good, or you great, excellent, elite, and it's up to you, and God wants you to be elite. So it's all about how you practice and how you play and how you prep. And I think Cignetti, that branched off of Saban, and of course I'm paraphrasing, and Nick Saban says it a lot better, but we talked about last week, and I said that it's going to be who's going to win more phases of the game than the other, because truth be told, as Chad mentioned, both these teams kind of seemed pretty even. I mean, I understand that Indiana dominated time of possession, especially in the first half. They ended up with plus 13 minutes of possession time throughout this football game. But, Miami, it wasn't like they were just happy to be there. They played hard. They played good at the line of scrimmage. They held Hemby to like under 3 yards per carry in the first half and through the third quarter. And you just go down the line. But I didn't think that we were hoping it wasn't going to be a blowout like Chad was predicting, but I didn't think that Miami played awful. I just thought they were severely limited to the opportunities that were given to them, thus getting them, kind of out of whack, because their identity is what exactly Indiana did. So outside of that Fletcher run for 60 yards for a touchdown or so, that dude had 16 carries for probably 60 yards. So they held Fletcher. It's just a matter of that one pop play, a lot like what Oregon had versus Indiana. Or, no, it was Ole Miss versus Miami with Q and Lacey. So, yeah, so when you guys were looking at this from a quarterback perspective, we saw Fernando Mendoza run a lot of RPOs. We saw Carson Beck almost navigate the field and quarterback it not better than Fernando, but I think the hand was forced to Carson Beck to kind of open the playing field up and hit the second level. But Fernando was RPOing Miami to death the entire game. So based on quarterback play, and, Chad, I can start with you. How did you vary the different performances between Fernando and Carson Beck? And, because Fernando had that one play, his Heisman moment, if you will, on that fourth down quarterback draw. So how did you like the quarterback play from Indiana and Miami?
Like Mendoza did awesome. And what's funny is you say that about that play is, they were running it up the middle, A gap, maybe C gap a little bit. And I'm like, dude, at some point I literally turned to my dad and said, they got to let Mendoza run. And then they had that quarterback draw and he went in the end zone. I was like, am I crazy? Yeah. Like, just let the guy run. They had
Xbox, record that. Somebody get me saying that.
I was like, guys, I swear I said this.
I said it.
But Mendoza did awesome job playing quarterback that game. Like he was reading the field. There were some miss errors. I mean, I really wouldn't even see there were really errors. It was just like, kind of off page with him and the wide receiver. There was one pass where he threw it a little bit too inside on like a corner or something like that. That could have been a touchdown, but I guess the wide receiver lost it, and had he put it a little bit more outside, maybe he could have seen it. But I think Mendoza played great. Now Carson Beck, I think Indiana kind of exposed him into making him uncomfortable and having to pass the ball. Like, Carson Beck is not a pocket player, and I'm kind of can see we can all see that. And when they were able to contain him in the pocket and make him actually throw the ball, he was out of whack. He looked awful. And I think that was kind of like when we said that with A&M and Miami. It was like if Marcel Reed, I think I said it, if Marcel Reed throws 2 picks, like they're not making another touchdown because he's going to go all out of whack. And I think Carson Beck had that moment, like Marcel Reed, where he just couldn't get anything going, and I think it exposed him.
Yeah, yeah. And then Turner, what about you with quarterback evaluations, or how would you want to respond to Chad's comments?
Well, you want to talk about a quarterback with grit? But look no further than Fernando Mendoza. I mean, literally, there are so many clips of him getting just donkey stomped, bleeding lip everywhere, showing his arm like, "Oh, look what they did to me! Oh my god!" But no, I mean, like literally, I knew that if you just look at the line of scrimmage, I mean, there were times where literally the Indiana O line was making a push in the run game, and then all of a sudden, oh, tackle for loss because the whole O line just got blown up by the D line, and then vice versa. Like Miami's running the ball really well, and they're pushing the D lineman downfield. All of a sudden, there's a break in the gap, and there's a D lineman for a tackle, another tackle for loss. So it was just a back and forth battle between both teams. And the quarterback play, I just knew that if it relied on Carson Beck to throw the football, I mean, I made the comment earlier, like literally, he is the reason that they have the two losses essentially because four interceptions against Louisville, the game losing interception against SMU. Like they kind of saw, like, dude, if we get this guy to actually make decisions, then like, because all he does is just throw it out to freaking Tony, and he's just a beast, and just like a little water bug just literally goes into.
That's what our
A little
just,
water bug.
just goes like 15, 20 yards, and you're just like, I don't even know how he does it. And it's not even like he's not even big. They're just not tackling him, and you're just like, holy smokes! And there's Fletcher, who looks like Derrick Henry, like Ryan said in our group chat. You're just like, he just runs like a freaking mule. And
Yeah.
so I just think the difference between quarterbacks is Fernando had more grit. He showed that he had more of the drive to and more of the patience to kind of go through his progressions and just like, hey, I just know that if I can get my guys out to make plays, we will have more success in this game than Miami. Versus Miami, like there were times where Carson Beck had times in the pocket for like more than the 4 second mark that a quarterback's supposed to have, and he's still making not very good decisions or not very accurate throws. And so you can just tell that you can tell by the draft stock of who's going over who, and
Yeah.
basically this year in the NFL draft.
Yeah, yeah. I made the joke that with Carson Beck's touchdown to basically get the game within 3, I was like, Carson Beck just improved his draft stock from undrafted free agent to Mr. Irrelevant, and being the last pick of the NFL draft. So, congratulations. So I think you make a really great point with Fernando Mendoza's patience, because with how they schematically ran this game, it was everything underneath. It was actually exactly how Miami got to the national championship, was taking throws underneath 5 to 10 yards. I mean, hell, Carson Beck for the first 2 playoff games versus Texas A&M and Ohio State had like 50 or 60 completions for less than 250 yards. So like you're talking dink and dump basically at the line of scrimmage, and throwing quick passes and screens. And a lot of that could have been Texas A&M's pressure off the edge. A lot of that could have been Matt Patricia's defense with Ohio State, and it's all schematically driven to say we're going to control. I sound like a broken record almost every episode of the past 3 or 4 weeks, but it's the right thing to say. Is we're going to control the line of scrimmage, we're going to control time of possession, and we're going to game manage this game with the lead. Carson Beck is going to minimize his mistakes. We're not going to take any deep shots downfield. And I think the difference with Fernando Mendoza and Carson Beck is there is no defense to the perfect pass. So Fernando is a much more pinpoint accurate thrower than Carson Beck is. And we saw that a lot with Charlie Becker, the wide receiver for Indiana, who I call the white Michael Gallup. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, I mean, a lot of his acrobatic catches on one-on-one coverage with slot fades, 50-50 balls. Charlie Becker came down with quite literally every single one. I believe, actually, I'm looking at it right here. He had 7 targets, but I think his first 3 catches, they were all on important key downs, and he caught the first 3. But all 4 of his catches were fantastic, and I've been saying he muscled his way into the end zone on one of them, or close to it. I think he stepped out of bounds at the 3 or 4 yard line. But Charlie Becker, man, he's only in his second year of college football. I'm really excited to see his progression. But Fernando Mendoza, that's his throw, the slot fade, whether it be to Surratt, Cooper, or Becker. So back to the patience thing, Fernando having to RPO your way down the field is a very, very methodical way to get down the field. Like I think we mentioned before the pod that a lot of their drives consisted of like 10 plus plays to score, which takes up time of possession, which controls the clock. I mean, you've got Black with 17 attempts. You got Hemby with 19 attempts. Good Lord. That's exactly what Miami would have wanted to do. So, props to Fernando Mendoza. The stats don't poke out at you. I mean, 16 of 27 for 186 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. But hell, I mean, at the same time, you had your Heisman moment running the football on fourth down. You know, that got me vocal when I watched it. I was like, damn. And then on the flip side, Carson Beck's out of his comfort zone, and they're doing the opposite of what they had to do the entire college football playoff was play from behind and throw the football. And that's just not a recipe that Miami wanted to tap into in the biggest stage of college football. So in terms of I would say coaching, you know, we look at Kurt Signetti. I looked it up. The average age for Indiana, we've talked about it before, and people always like come after us for this in certain ways because they think that we're knocking Indiana. But Indiana's average age is 23. Miami's is between 20 and 22 from according to the source I looked up. Not sure entirely. He put an approximate in there, so I'm not entirely sure how accurate that is. But Indiana, we've talked about their acquisition of talent and how they got there. Signetti, in my opinion, played, and of course it's my show, it's my opinion, but Signetti, I thought, played extremely conservative in comparison to his previous games, other than the fourth down conversion. And Mario Cristobal kind of did the same, but I thought Indiana went away from their identity of kind of being passive-aggressive on fourth downs. They took a lot of punts at midfield or within 4th and 5 or less, and or 4th and 3 and less, I would argue. There were some timeouts in the critical moments, but some argue it was great game management. Some argue it wasn't.